The following special presentation is brought to you by the Government Channel, a service of the town of Framingham.
Good evening. I think we'll get started. My name is Bill Sedowitz. I'm the Chief Engineer for the Framingham Department of Public Works. Appreciate you coming out tonight to talk about one of our major projects, construction projects this year, which is going to happen right outside. We are taping this, so that's one of the reasons for the microphone is we can run it on the local cable channel, and hopefully we can reach even a bigger audience. The project manager could not be with us tonight due to a family matter, but there's other members of the project team here tonight. Bonnie Reese, who's the Director of Capital Projects, will be giving a PowerPoint presentation in a minute. We have members of our consulting team that was responsible for the design and will assist us in the construction oversight here as well. We have Judy Teller, who does our communication and outreach, and we'll talk about ways you can communicate with us, and hopefully there's always a way you can get a hold of us for information. And Paul Barden is our Deputy Director of Public Works. So a couple things before we get started, just in case there's any kind of emergencies or whatever. The main exit is out the way you came in. If there's a need to get out in a hurry, there's also an emergency exit behind you. There's restrooms out this door on the right, women first and men after that. We would encourage people to sign in if you haven't done that already. Again, we're trying to keep the communication lines open, make sure you can get a hold of us, and hopefully we can get a hold of you. And then there's refreshments as well. So after the presentation, we'll be happy to stay as long as we need to answer questions. The focus tonight is really the project that's going to be occurring on Union Ave. But there's a lot of other projects going on in town. There's a map that has some of the other locations, and be happy to talk to folks about any of the other projects going on in town. Not only is the town very busy, the state, MassDOT's busy, the private utility companies. So as you're probably well aware, there's plenty of construction going on around town, and we'd be happy to convey whatever information we have for any of that work. I think at this point, I'll turn it over to Bonnie for the presentation.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. We're hoping to give you an overview of the project and answer some of your questions. I'm going to do a little introduction, then I'll talk about the project limits and the phasing of this project. This is part of a larger project, so this is the first contract, and we're breaking it into 3 phases, so we'll discuss that a little bit. And then we'll talk about traffic management and impacts to the residents and the neighborhoods, the project schedule, and then, as Bill said, communication, how you can get updates on the project as we're going. I will stop at a couple of spots during the presentation to give you an opportunity to ask questions, but if you could hold your questions until those points. Yes, sir.
If filming this, is there a way to dim that light, the overhead light, so that the screen can be visible?
That is a good question. I don't know. Nope. I think that's the best we can do. Okay, so let's go. The reason for why we're doing this project, there are multiple reasons, but one of them is that the infrastructure in this section of Union Avenue is well over 100 years old. The water mains were built in the late 1800s, and the sewer and the drainage pipes were installed in the early 1900s. Also, the materials used to construct this infrastructure are well beyond their useful lives. And since 2008, we've had over 200 calls for emergency repairs. So, you know, rather than deal with things on an emergency basis, which causes more disruption and is more expensive, it makes a lot of sense to just go in and fix the infrastructure. Also, the water pipes have a lot of service leaks, and the mains themselves have leaks. There are hydrants that don't work properly, there are valves that don't work properly, and there have been complaints about dirty water. So the improvements that we're going to do to the water system will help alleviate all of those issues. And then, as I said, the materials and the configuration of how things were installed don't meet current standards. The drainage system doesn't meet current water quality standards. It was constructed with the catch basins going directly from catch basin to catch basin. It's called a daisy chain system. The way we do it now is the catch basins run to a main pipe in the center of the road, and that helps with capacity issues, flow issues. And then this project will sort of be the connector between the Main Street work that was just finished up and the work that's going on in the downtown now. So when all of this work is completed from the bridge at Edgell Road and Main Street all the way down to the downtown, we'll have all new water and sewer pipe. Just quickly, this is a map of the location of the project. The orange is this first contract, Contract 1, which is what I'll be focusing on tonight. The yellow is Contract 2, which will be the follow-up project. So you can see that it goes most of the extent of Union Ave. So this Phase 1 project, this Contract 1, Phase 1 of the project, will be from Main Street at Buckminster Circle down to the Sudbury River Bridge, which is right over there behind us. Phase 2 will go from the Sudbury River Bridge to the Mount Waite Avenue intersection. It's a very short section. And then Phase 3 will go from Mount Waite Avenue down to Walnut Street. The follow-on contract will go Walnut Street to Proctor Street and also include some of the Evergreen area. And then after the town is done with all of this work, Mass DOT is coming in to do a street improvement project. They'll be fixing the streets, the sidewalks, and doing a beautification project. So this first phase is really just a very small part of a much, much larger project that will result in huge differences to Union Ave, both aesthetically and beautify it, as well as improving the infrastructure. This Contract 1 involves about 4,000 feet of replacement of water main, and the sewer main replacements about 1,100 feet of actual open cut, digging up the road, replacing the sewer main, and then we're going to do about 1,800 feet of sewer trenchless lining. Basically, they take a flexible cloth liner, they insert it, they invert it like turning a sock inside out into the sewer pipe. They fill the pipe up with steam and pressurize it, and they actually cook the liner, so when they're done, they have a pipe within a pipe. The advantage to that is they're not digging up the street. It's a lot less invasive. And there are portions of the project where the pipe was in good enough condition that we could still do that. And there were portions of the project where the pipe was so badly deteriorated, though, that we were not able to do that, and that will be where we'll be digging. Storm drain replacement, we'll do about 4,500 linear feet of storm drain replacement, and that will include new manholes and catch basins as well. Also, we'll be putting in 2 water quality units, so all of the new storm drain infrastructure will flow towards the Sudbury River, and there'll be a water quality unit here in the parking lot of the Callahan Center, and there'll be a water quality unit on the other side of the river at Bowditch Field. These will help to improve the quality of what's being discharged into the Sudbury River. These units will remove sediment, solids, oil, grease before the water gets discharged. So it'll be a great improvement to the water quality in the river. Another big part of this project is the removal of about 13,000 square yards of concrete road base. Union Street previously had trolley tracks that went up and down, and they were embedded in concrete that varied from 8 to 12 inches thick. This is a cross-section of we did some borings. This is a cross-section that we pulled out of the road. It's actually on the smaller side. There are some areas that are much thicker. If you can't see it from where you're sitting now, you're welcome to come up here and take a look at it at the end. So this is about 7 or 8 inches of concrete and about 4 inches of asphalt. Like I said, the concrete ranges up to about 12 inches, and the asphalt goes up to about 7 or 8 inches in some places. So it'll be a significant effort for the contractor to dig all of that out as they go along. So the first part of the project will be for them to remove all that so that they can get down and address the utilities. There is also some old concrete asbestos pipe in the road that will need to be removed, and that will be handled in accordance with all EPA and DEP standards. The contractor knows that they have to follow the correct protocol and make sure that it's disposed of properly and take all the appropriate safety precautions. And then as they go, the contractor will be restoring the road base. Like I said, at the end of all this, DOT will be coming in and then doing a major road reconstruction project, so we'll do some interim restoration right now. One of the big issues, and probably a reason that most of you are here, is the traffic management. This is a busy street, and everybody wonders how we're going to handle the traffic during construction. So our consultant, Beta Engineering, did a very thorough traffic analysis. They looked at 14 different intersections, signalized and unsignalized. They did average and peak traffic counts, both for Union Ave and Franklin Street, and then they looked at all of the side streets to find out which one would be the best street or which streets to use as detours based on the ability for truck turning radius. As you know, there are a lot of large trucks. Some of the Odessa carriers, for example, go down Union Street, and some of the smaller side streets don't work for them to be able to turn. So this is the limit of work for phase 1, from Buckminster Square all the way down to the Sudbury River. Let's see if I can. And just to give you a frame of reference, this is where we are right now at the Callahan Center. This is Bowditch Field. This is the Framingham State University facility. So this is the extent of the entire phase 1, what we're planning to do this construction season. So for the traffic management for this part of Union Ave will be closed down for construction, and it will be one-way north-only traffic. So there will be one lane open at all times, only in the northbound direction. So whether it may actually be on the other side of the road, depending on where they're working. So it'll just always be northbound, no matter what side of the road they're working on. I should mention that our first line of defense here is we're going to put some signs out on Route 9. notifying the large truck traffic that they might want to take 126 if they're going towards downtown Framingham, and just avoid Union Ave and Franklin Street altogether. We're hoping that that will capture some of the flow and divert it before they even come off Route 9. So here at Main Street and Franklin Street, we're going to detour the traffic down to Mount Wade Avenue, and at that point, smaller vehicles, cars and smaller trucks, can go down Mount Wade Avenue to get back to Union Ave, and they can then go either right or left, north or south at that point. Larger trucks, because this intersection here really doesn't accommodate larger trucks will be detoured further down to Arch Street, and then they can turn north or south at that point. And also, anyone coming down Main Street, wanting to stay on Main Street, can do so. Anyone coming down Franklin Street, wanting to continue down Franklin Street, can do so. So the detour is really set up just to do a loop, basically, around the project area. So if you lived on Neville Road or Wood Terrace, you would have to come around and do this loop and go north again to get to your street. So again, this picture is the intersection of Mount Wade and Union Ave. You can see that that's a small car trying to turn, and it's in the other lane. This would not work for large trucks. One-way traffic northbound through the work area, two-way traffic south of the Sudbury River, and the detour as we just talked about. The other key issue or aspect of this is that our consultant looked at the signal timing at key intersections, Main and Franklin, Franklin and Maple, Franklin and Mount Wade, and Union and Mount Wade, and they will be adjusting the signals to optimize the flow of traffic through the detour. So we really wanted to encourage people to use the detour and not use the side streets. Obviously, some of the local traffic people will find their own way that they want to go, but for the majority of traffic that is heading to downtown, we want them to use the detour, and the lights will be set up to make that optimal for them. There will be a new left turn lane on Arch Street and parking restrictions on Arch Street, so traffic coming out back onto Union will have a left turn lane and a right turn lane at that point. And then there'll be a new left turn lane. This is Mount Wade and Franklin. There'll be a designated left turn lane here to turn and go back down to Union Street. This detour will be maintained around the clock throughout the construction season, so it won't change at night. It won't change on the weekends. We want to make it as simple as possible for people to know, how they're supposed to navigate this area and where the construction zone is. So we decided to keep it just the same all the time and throughout the whole construction season. Yes, the school buses will be rerouted too. And we've been working with the transportation director for, he's well aware of this project. He actually weighed in on our traffic management plan. We got some input from him. So before I go on to phase 2 and phase 3, the phase 1 work, again, is the work that will be done this construction season. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
What does this construction season mean? When does it start?
So I'll get into the schedule in a little bit, but basically we're hoping that the contractor will start in mid to late July, and the construction season should go until about mid to late November. Weather depending. We just are in the process of going over the schedule and signing a contract with the contractor. So as soon as we can get them out there, we will. Yes, sir.
Just wondered, probably obvious what you said, if we want to get, come to Callahan Center, maybe we'll have to turn right on Franklin, or come down Franklin and somewhere, go up
That is correct. The question was how to get to the Callahan Center. And let me just go back to this. So, right, you would, if you were coming from the north, you would just circle down Franklin Street to Mount Waite and then go northbound through this section of the construction zone. And then when you came out of the Callahan Center, you'd have to go north as well. Yes, sir.
So the one-way traffic is in effect day and night, or just during the daytime?
The one-way traffic, the entire detour will be maintained 24/7. So the one-way traffic will be day and night. And there'll be signage indicating that. It'll be very obvious. Hang on just a second, sir. Yes, ma'am. I will talk a little bit about the sewer and the water bypass in a minute, if you don't mind waiting. Questions about the traffic management plan in the back, sir?
Yes, some concern, you said that, somebody else had said that it's only going to be days. When you start doing laterals across the street, it's going to present a little problem for traffic.
So the contractor is, we can't tell them how to do it, but okay. I will also talk about that in a little bit. But the short answer to the question was, what about when the contractor's doing laterals and has to go all the way across the street? Access to your driveways, to your properties, to your businesses, the contractor will have to maintain that. He'll have to work with you on that. If you need to get into your driveway and there's a trench in the street, they can put a plate over it so that you can get in. They have been instructed to work with the residents in that respect. And I will talk about night work and that sort of thing in just a little bit. But any more questions about the traffic management plan? Yes, sir.
So during the winter time, it goes back to two-way traffic?
Yes, during the winter time.
And the fall and spring?
So at the end of the construction season, everything will be paved, everything will be cleaned up, and the traffic patterns will go back to the way they are now, just for the winter time. And then next spring, and I'll talk about phase 2 and 3 very briefly, but next spring, there'll be another detour set up.
Will they do something on 126 to handle the extra traffic of the trucks? That's pretty bad right now.
We are not adjusting signals or anything like that. The question was, will they be doing anything on 126 to handle the additional traffic? No, but this detour should take part of the traffic. 126 will take the rest. Mike, would you like to?
As you may see out there now, there's new traffic signal equipment that's up. The contractor is working to power that equipment, and we expect, maybe within the month, that new signal equipment will be up and online. And at that point, those new signals should operate more efficiently than what you're seeing out there today. So that'll definitely help with managing some additional traffic from this project.
Thank you. Okay, so why don't one more question?
As far as coming off of Franklin and going down that street, how is that any different turning than Mount Waite? Because I live right near that corner.
The turning radius there is a little bit bigger, and it does accommodate trucks better. I have to defer to the experts over here. How is Arch Street any different than Mount Waite for trucks?
Mount Waite has two-way traffic, so the truck can only pull over so far to the left when they're making a right turn. So where Arch Street is a one-way street, so they can pull all the way to the left curb and then swing out into Union Ave to make that turn.
So I'd like to move on and talk about the next couple of phases. So the extent of work for phases 2 and 3 will be where we ended at the bridge with phase 1, down to just past the intersection of Mount Wade Ave. It's a very small section, but it's a critical section in terms of traffic management and access management. And then phase 3 will be from where phase 2 ended down to the intersection of Walnut Street. And that will be the entire amount of contract 1. So the traffic management plan for phase 2, is somewhat similar to phase 1. Trucks coming, we'll still have the signage on Route 9. Trucks coming off of Route 9 can go down Franklin Street. They will be instructed to continue all the way down to Melrose Street. The reason that we're using Melrose Street is we wanted to give the folks who live on Arch Street and in that area a break. Since they're going to be putting up with the detour this year, we're going to detour the traffic to another street in 2017. Melrose Street was the second best street for the truck turning traffic based on the analysis that was done. Traffic coming down east on Mount Wade Avenue can go straight across the intersection. Will be instructed to go straight across the intersection and loop back around to Union Ave. Trucks coming down Mount Wade Avenue will be required to turn and go down to Melrose Street just because this turn and this turn don't work very well for trucks. So it's a very similar detour. Northbound traffic will still be maintained on Union Ave. Main Street will still be accessible as it is now. And the big difference here is the traffic coming straight through from Mount Wade Avenue and looping around, and then the change in the detour to Melrose Street. And then the phase 3 traffic management plan will be very similar to phase 2, except that the work area has moved down. So there will be two-way traffic on this section between Mount Wade Avenue and the bridge, northbound only over the bridge. So again, we're maintaining that northbound flow. And then north and south two-way traffic on the other side of the bridge. So that's mostly to make access easier for the residents in this area. So when we get to phase 3, if you live in this area, you won't have to do the loop around. Again, the Franklin Street detour will go down to Melrose Street. We expect phase 2 and phase 3 to happen within the same construction season, 2017. So that sort of accounts for the similarity in the detours, and hopefully it'll all get done within that time period. So I'd like to, yes, absolutely.
Oh, there we go. One thing that I wanted to add, and Vonnie touched on it a little bit, is the section of roadway between the Sudbury River Bridge and Maple Street. This will be two-way during phase 2 and during phase 3. Southbound will be for local traffic only, so if you want to come to the Callahan Center from the north during phase 2 and phase 3, you will be able to come south, come into the center. If you want to continue south when you're leaving, you will have to loop around, but you will be able to exit and head north.
Yeah, thank you.
May I ask another question? Would
Sure.
Framingham State University, considering their lot of parking, they park right beside our stand?
Right, so the question is about the Framingham State University lot, which is right here. They'll have to follow the detour just like everybody else. Did you? Not directly, no. Yes, that's a good suggestion. Some of the anticipated impacts and work hours and schedule issues. The work hours will be 7 to 5, Monday through Friday. There is only one portion of the work where we expect there will be night work. The night work will be at that intersection of Mount Waite and Union. And they are going to be required to do that as night work just because it's such a busy intersection. The rest of the work at this time is planned to be done during the day. Access within the work area, we talked about how traffic will need to loop around. The contractor will be instructed to use erosion control methods, straw wattles, which are like the big, long straw logs that the contractors put down to help when it rains to keep runoff from pulling dirt down into the street. Catch basin inserts, which are bags they put in the catch basins that also collect sediment so it doesn't get into the storm drain system. They will be required to control noise and dust. This is a construction project. It is going to be noisy, it is going to be dusty, but they're going to have to do everything they can to minimize that as much as possible. Probably the noisiest part is going to be when they're digging out this concrete and the asphalt. And then there will be a requirement for them to protect trees and other vegetation, no storing of materials or equipment within the drip line of large trees, that sort of thing. And obviously during the project, as a resident, if you have any concerns, you can call us and we can address that. Yes, sir.
Regarding the ripping up the built pavement, are they going to jackhammer or are they going to saw?
Again, we can't tell them how to do it, but they'll probably saw cut it.
Yeah, we had those same concerns about vibration impacts and the like. So we've directed the contractor in the contract specifically that he has to saw cut the majority of it.
And just to follow up on that, before they start construction, they're going to set up vibration monitoring. And they will be doing building inspections, so they'll be coming around and taking a pre-construction video, making sure that we record the pre-existing conditions of people's house foundations, that sort of thing, beforehand. When they're doing the work, they will have a seismograph set up to monitor the vibrations as well. Yes, sir.
I assume straw cutting is quieter than the jackhammer?
Saw cutting is a little bit quieter, and hopefully a little less dust.
So since you don't know exactly when they're going to start, you're going to have to sign up when it does start, you know, on your sign?
We will absolutely let people know when the exact start date is, yes. So to the question from the lady in the front here about the sewer and the water bypasses, there will be a need to bypass while we're pulling out the old pipe. For the pipe replacement sections, they will probably set up a mobile bypass and just hop from manhole to manhole, so there should be no interruption in your sewer service when they're doing that work. When they're doing the pipe lining work, however, for the time that it takes them to put the material in the pipe and cook it and then go back in and cut out your services, there will be some restrictions on water use. Usually it'll be less than a day. And we just ask that you don't do laundry, you don't run your dishwasher, anything that is a high water use. The concern being that your sewer service would back up into your house. There is a fair amount of storage in your sewer service, so you can go to the bathroom and take showers, that sort of thing, but we just ask. And we will put out notices in advance of those events happening as well, so you'll know when that's happening. Yes, sir?
Do you have a sense of the perimeter of that, the impact area?
Yes, so the most of this first phase is going to be lining work and not the open cut work. So the good news is there'll be less excavation. There is going to be this slight restriction. It's not an interruption in service. You can still use your services, but you'll just have to be aware during that time that they tell you that they're coming in and doing it. So what they do is they go from one manhole to the next. to put the liner in and to access the pipe. So they'll do a section, and then they'll move down to the next section, and it goes very quickly. When they're doing the water work, there will be a water bypass. So there will be essentially no interruption in your water service either. It'll be a slight interruption when they're hooking you from your regular service over to the bypass service. The water bypass will be a pipe that's above ground, and then they'll run a new service off that pipe to your house, and everybody will have their own individual connection. It'll meet all standards for quality and will be disinfected, so you should have no concerns about cross-contamination or anything like that. This work may not happen this season. From the schedule that we got from the contractor the other day, it looks like this work may go into next season a little bit for the water work, but we'll see how quickly they move. Yes, sir.
Is that likely to be mostly houses that right on Union Avenue, not likely to go over and say Franklin Street, or do some of that be a lot of, say, Franklin Street, get pipe over somewhere on right here?
It should just be the houses on Union Street. Any questions about the bypasses? So this is the schedule as it stands now, and it's always subject to change, of course, but we're in the process of getting a contract signed. We're doing these outreach meetings now. We're hoping mid to late July they'll be starting construction. And then phase one, from July through December, the sequence of work as they've laid it out now is they'll do the concrete base, they'll backfill, they'll pave as they go to help minimize dust and keep access open. Then they'll come back and do the sewer work, which, like I said, is mostly lining. They will be replacing sewer manholes, and there will be a small amount of pipe replacement, but the majority is the lining work. And then the water replacement will follow that. And of course, with both the sewer work and the water work, where the new pipe is going in, they'll have to do service connections as well. Phase 2 will be spring and summer of 2017. And then phase 3, we're hoping will follow immediately and be the summertime through December of 2017. So our goal is to have it done in 2 construction seasons. So in terms of your ability to get information as the project progresses, you can sign up for email and text message alerts if you go to Notify Me on the town website. The DPW has a Facebook page, Town of Framingham - Department of Public Works. The town website has, if you go to Building Framingham and then click on this project, you can get information about this project. And then you can always call the Capital Program Office or email us. We have somebody on call 24/7. Just if you call in off hours, please leave your name, the best way to contact you, what your concern is, and somebody will get back to you. Yes, sir.
My house is on right on the corner of Maple and Union, facing Buckminster Circle, so I've already experienced the sewer project going down Maple. My question is about sidewalks. I had a pretty bad experience with my sidewalk and digging into my lawn and tearing out my sprinkler system. And, it's sort of a long story, I'll try to keep it short, but like 3 months prior to the project starting, there was a leak in the pipe going to the shutoff. And I contacted the town, let them know I had a system, an irrigation system, and somehow that message didn't get to those people, and they dug right through it and broke it. 3 months later, when the project started, I let Glenn know that I had a sprinkler system in there. Somehow that message didn't get to them, they came in, they broke through the sprinkler system again. It just seems like, to me, that something that could have been avoidable, you know what I mean? So I'm hoping, are you guys gonna be tearing up the sidewalks on the Union Ave side? Because I have like a 40-yard stretch. I got like 4 sprinkler heads and a line going across there. And And it just seems to me, why dig into a sprinkler line if you know it's already there? You know what I mean?
So that's unfortunate that those issues occurred during that project. They won't be digging into the sidewalk unless you have a water service or sewer service that's going in that way. And both the water and the sewer services will be installed up to your property line, so not within your lawn itself. So if you are, it sounds like your water service at least is coming from the other side, if
Correct.
you already had an issue with that.
They moved the shut off. The shut off was about 3 yards into my lawn, or not even, maybe 5 feet into my lawn. They moved it. In fact, when they first came out, they probably should have moved it because they knew the project was coming. And they came back and dug into the same area to move the shut off to the sidewalk. So that's where. So you're saying because there's no water coming in through the Union Ave side, there's no reason why they should dig up that sidewalk?
No, unless your sewer service comes in from that side. So there won't be any disturbance to the sidewalks or the lawns except for where the services come in. The bigger project that's going to be done by Mass DOT, they will be replacing the sidewalks and disturbing those areas. So that's down the road a little bit, but except for where your service connections are, we won't be getting into your lawn or the sidewalk.
When is that project? So you're not involved in that, but when is that project?
That project will happen after this project. Right now it is scheduled for 2021. Yes, in the back.
What's the dollar value of this project?
$6.2 million. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, is the Mass DOT work, the follow-up work, is that contingent at all on time to completion of this, or predicated on the completion of this? Or does that happen whether or not this project is complete?
Do you want to take this one?
The question is how the utility work and the road work interact. The state wants us to complete the utility work before the road work will continue or will proceed. So all the utility work needs to be done. Not only this contract one, but as we mentioned from Walnut Street further south, that work would also have to be completed. So
Just to be clear, Mass DOT will proceed with the work once this is complete, whenever this finishes, whenever they can schedule that.
there's no guarantee. So the way that works is all the communities in the area submit projects to the state. Those projects are prioritized, ranked, and funded. So at the moment, thankfully, our project is funded in the fiscal year 2021. Between now and then, we need to finish the design for the road project, which is a separate design project. We need to complete the utility work, and then continue to work with the state to make sure it stays in that queue. So that's the plan at the moment. Our job is to continue, get the utility work done, advance the road design, and hopefully be ready to go so there's no interruption. So we'd like to try to sequence them as close as we can, and that's the intent, is complete the utility work. Hopefully the gap between that and the road restoration is as short as possible, and then we proceed. So we've done this, Franklin Street, same thing. The town did the utilities, and then the state came in and did the road restoration. So that's the intent we're trying to do on Union Ave.
Obviously, the gap doesn't bother me as much as the risk of either them not doing it because we're late, or doing it early and then us having to rip up what they've done.
They have no intention to do it early, and so that's all on us to get our work done, and then to just make sure that doesn't slip or get bumped out, and make sure we continue to advocate to make sure our spot is secure and reserved in that, basically statewide queue of projects. Yes.
Going back to what you were talking about, there'd be certain days where people would not be able to run their dishwashers or do laundry because they'd be working on the sewers and possible backups. How are they going to notify people of those particular days? Because we have tenants, and they're obviously, well, like one tenant, yes, they're not here. How do I let them know so I don't end up with running the days?
So one of the communications tools we use is these notification cards. They're orange. There's probably a dozen of them to try to be specific as to the nature of the work. Sometimes we'll be going on to water bypass. Sometimes there'll be temporary restrictions to access if we're trenching across your driveway. But these will go out depending on the nature of the impact 1 to 2 days in advance. We'll give you information to call if there's some issue that we need to work around. We're very receptive to that. You're having a delivery, somebody needs to come, we'll work with you, but the primary communication tool is these cards that will hang on your door, give you enough notice to give us a call and say, I have some issue, you need to work, with us to resolve. So.
Yes, ma'am. The question was, are there any federal, is there any federal funding for this project? The answer is no. This is a Town of Framingham project. There are, is that not correct?
No, that's correct. There are no federal dollars. There are no federal dollars involved in this project. However, the town is receiving some funding from the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority through some water and sewer programs that they have in place. Some of which of that is a grant that the MWRA is providing to the town. No, it is not.
Yes, sir.
Can you comment at all on the footprint of the water quality unit on Village Field? What's that going to look like? How much space does it take? What are you talking about there?
It will all be subsurface. So when it's done, the field will be restored. The parking lot here will be restored. You actually won't see it except for the outfall that will be down by the river. It's not in the field. It's on the edge. It's on the edge of the river.
But it's not like a little brick structure or something that you would see instead of the grass.
No. Exactly. It is all subsurface. Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering, because we often, look over the bridge there and see kind of a lot of growth in the river and stuff like that. Now, I understand, generally speaking, we've had some volunteer groups that go clean that up for us a while. I just wondered in connection with this, is there anything that kind of gets into that area going into the bridge right near there and would tend to clean up that area in any way? Perhaps get some sludge out of the river or do anything else involving trees and branches, any of that kind of thing related to this?
The question was, will this project address any issues within the river and cleaning up of the vegetation in the river? And the answer to that is no. We're not touching the river except for where those water quality units discharge. There'll be a riprap to control the flow. Yes, sir.
And as a follow-up to that, can you expand at all on the report of dirty water? Maybe I'm out of the loop, but what were the details of that? You said there were reports of dirty water.
I think it may just be related to hydrant flushing, but as the system is older, you get more of the buildup in the system. So when they do the hydrant flushing, it can cause temporary problems. Yes, ma'am.
What about the chemical spill from the dry cleaners? Do they think development construction that you're going to be doing to increase its progression towards the river or any more soiling in the soil?
Did you look at that?
That has been an issue in the past. I'm just wondering if it's going to be worse. Can you read the question?
Yeah, so the question was related to the dry cleaning contamination actually in this vicinity. No, we don't expect that. It's in the groundwater right now. The groundwater in this area is lower. We're hoping that we don't encounter it. If we do encounter it, then they're required to treat it before they discharge it. And then there's part of the design of the water quality units is that there will actually be a clay barrier to prevent it from migrating closer to the river.
So you don't think there's going to be any possible contamination when you guys are switching things with the water that we drink and any contamination there?
No, because the water system itself is a pressurized system, and you're not experiencing any contamination now with the existing water system that you have now.
Yes, sir.
With regards to the temporary water hookup, are you going to backfeed through outdoor spigots, or are you going to feed down to get at the gate valves and so straight into the service?
It'll be through your outdoor spigot.
Almost you have
unless you don't have one. Yes, sir.
Again, getting back to the night work, looking through the main street, and did you anticipate any night work at that time?
We did. So the section of Main Street from basically the start of this project up to Route 9, we knew from the get-go that the traffic there was going to necessitate night work. The section to the east over the bridge and to the other end of Route 9 was intended to be done during the day. But each project, each location is analyzed separately to determine, is it possible to do the work during the day? And in some cases, in this case, we're detouring. In that section of Main Street, there really wasn't an opportunity to do that. So we knew we were going to need to do work in that section at night. So that was planned. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk a little bit about emergency vehicles? Like, for example, at rush hour right now, Union Ave is backed up already. So when it's one way and gridlock, how would, for example, a fire truck get to Neville Road or Prescott Street? And will they be able to get to a hydrant? And will the hydrants all be active? What is the plan for that? Can you post something on the website in the next few days about that too?
We'll give some thought if there's anything to post, but there's been there's probably between a dozen and 24 conversations and meetings that have occurred with, generally the traffic management is the emergency response services the town provides. So police, fire, school transportation are all part of those discussions. So the priority, and that's one of the reasons why in some cases we have to do night work, is to make sure that we can get emergency vehicles where they need to go. So we believe that the traffic management plan as proposed is going to be sufficient. Police and fire believe it is adequate. In the end, they'll do whatever they need to do to get to a site, and that's been made clear. If we're on one side of the road and they need to go up on the curb or whatever else, they'll get there. But we believe this traffic management plan satisfies those needs and will be adequate. It will be monitored continuously if there's needs to make changes, but we believe that emergency access will be provided at all times. Relative to the water, we provide that temporary bypass does provide fire protection. So generally it's bigger on one side of the road. That's where there's temporary hydrant connections that the fire department can access. And on the other side of the road, there's a much smaller diameter pipe that just feeds residential use for homes. But those are access points that the fire department can access just like they can now. So there's no concern about a diminished fire response for any of the water bypass work.
And maybe police details to get emergency.
Yeah, so there'll also be numerous police details stationed along the project route that can also help facilitate traffic if need be to get vehicles through. So.
Maybe pull up the map of the whole Union Ave area and just show, for example, how a truck would get to Neville Road at rush hour? I'm just curious.
So all the police details will have radios, so if they believe there's a call, they can clear traffic out, they can divert traffic. The police and fire can also use the cross streets while they might be designated one way. River Street and are opportunities that if they need to access, we've already had discussions that, again, they'll know exactly where we're working and they'll have a plan for which fire station. They all have different response areas and how they plan to get to different roads and access points. And through numerous discussions with them, we believe that we're well prepared and that there won't be any concerns. Yes, sir.
Prescott Gardens, rather large housing complex, 80, 90 units. How are the temporary water and sewer lines being connected? They have their own infrastructure. So how would that be accommodated?
So that would be accommodated at the connection point at the edge of the road. So that connection point now will be the tie-over point, and will continue. The internal plumbing and the internal pipe network will remain the same. So we're just working within the Union Ave road limits, and that'll be connected. So we talked about the hoses for individual residents, and then it's a little different on the cross streets and commercial buildings. So we have to make sure that the fire services, things like that, are adequately sized and connected and tested. But it'll be accommodated just like every other user along the street. Yes.
A follow-up to that Prescott Gardens question. Is that going to be where it's being relined or where it's being completely dug up?
Do you know exactly?
That's going to be through, if I pardon me, because if I remember correctly, Prescott Gardens is in this area. Is that correct? That's where the sewer will be lined. Also, just to add something to the concerns about the water, we will have the contractor go in and do pre-construction pressure and flow testing. This will mean that they do have to come inside your homes or your businesses. You will be notified 72 hours in advance. They will have IDs. If for any reason somebody is asking for access to your house and you don't feel comfortable, please call the DPW. We don't want you to not be comfortable with letting somebody in or letting somebody in who's not with the project, obviously. So they'll do that pre-construction testing, and then if there is a problem after construction, if you notice a decrease in your water pressure or you have an issue, we'll have a record of what it was before, and we can work with you to remedy any problems that might be as a result of the construction. Yes, sir.
I apologize for a lack of knowledge, but I'm just wondering, I gather that underneath the dry cleaner's place, that in some way in the past years has been taken care of and has actually nothing to do with our pressurized water systems. We just don't, is there any way to give that?
Yes, the groundwater is separate from your drinking water, and as Nick said, your drinking water pipes are pressurized. It's a closed system. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so for something like Prescott Gardens, where they're going to make the bypass out at the street level, they won't be testing the individual services. So no one will be coming to test each individual outdoor spigot at that point. The individual pressure and flow testing would be for any service that would be individually scheduled to be replaced.
Yes, sir.
The other connection to that is, I think we're far away from it, but if you were a gardener, and you were somewhere near that area with the dry cleaners and so forth, is the groundwater in any way going to affect that garden?
I can't answer that question. I'm not familiar with that particular case, but I do believe that the groundwater in this area is quite a bit lower. The groundwater is probably about the elevation of the river over here. So it probably does not affect your garden unless you have something with super deep roots. Okay, well, we are willing to stick around and answer any more questions that you might have. We do have some maps up that show the extent of the project. We also have a map up that shows all the other work that is going on in town at the moment, too. So thank you so much for coming out tonight.